All right, this is the second of three programs on Chapter 11, the nervous system integration and control. And this one focuses on the cells of the nervous system. So we'll describe some of those cells. Particularly, we'll spend a lot of time on neurons, and we'll describe what neurons do, how they send and receive messages. Okay, but before I go off into neurons, I should talk about the cells of the nervous system that aren't neurons. And these are, as a group, they're called neuroglial cells, and there's lots of them. They are the most abundant cells in the nervous system, making up 80% of all those cells in there. And their job is to support neurons, to protect them, to assist them. Sometimes they have crucial roles in helping them function. Like, for instance, there's a lipoprotein called myelin that makes nerve cells work faster. That's produced by Schwann cells and oligodendrocytes. And without myelin, people get very, very sick and they can't function. They become paralyzed. But there's lots of these cells. That's the only place you find them. They help neurons and they help the nervous systems. Just know about myelin and that several diseases are caused if these cells can't do their job. But the most important cells in the central nervous system are neurons. And these are among the most important cells in your body. They are large, long-lived cells. Many of them, if not most of them, will live your entire life. They can send and receive messages. They have receptive surfaces called dendrites that can receive messages, and then they can send messages away from the cell body on axons. And some of these appendages from the cell, they're very, very thin, but they can go long distances, sometimes 2 or 3 feet. Okay, and so these are important. Neurons are large. They have a nucleus like other cells. They make materials with their ribosomes, and they use lots of energy. The main thing they do, though, is that they store energy as a cell potential. The cell moves ions outside, particularly sodium ions, so that the cell itself is negative. Okay, and it maintains concentration gradients, and this negative charge is like stored energy. And when the right stimulus comes along, proteins in the pore of the membrane in the membrane, pores can open that allow ions to quickly move. And these ion channels, this change in the permeability of the membrane can spread quickly, and it occurs very, very fast. It can cover the entire surface of the cell within a few milliseconds. And this is called an action potential. And this spreads from one end of the cell to the other in a few 1,000ths of a second. Okay. The cell then can repolarize by changing its membrane potential again and allowing the movement of ions. The crucial part of this movement of ions is that there is a pump in the cell membrane that uses energy. And that pump is going to move sodium out and potassium into the cell. And so this allows for that rapid signaling. Okay, then when a neuron wants to signal other cells, okay, it sends that action potential down its axons, okay, and when it reaches the end of the axon, vesicles that store chemicals fuse with the membrane to release those chemicals. Okay, these vesicles are releasing a chemical that can activate another cell, so we call it a neurotransmitter. And this diffuses across the short gap between cells, which we call a synapse. Okay, and then when these neurotransmitters reach the second cell, they will bind to receptors where they can activate or inhibit other cells. And so these neurotransmitters are extremely important molecules. We use them all the time to signal other cells. Most commonly, we use acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter that can stimulate other cells so that it allows those cells to open their ion channels so that they can undergo an action potential. Okay, there are somewhere around 30 different neurotransmitters, each made in different areas of the brain or in peripheral nerves, and then each signaling a cell to become more excited or less excited. And this is how neurons signal one another, is through these cells. Okay, there's a really nice video on Moodle on the neurons. Check that link out. It'll be really, really helpful. Okay, there's one more program here that we have to do, and that will be on the brain and functions of the brain.